Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about the Tornado Shot Manaforged Arrows build. A lot of people has been requesting an update for the 3.23 patch, and here we go. So what is the build for? The build has a lot of pros and cons. The pros are it is a fast mapper, it has great clear speed, and it is viable in really cheap gear, and it is a ranged playstyle that a lot of people prefer. The cons is it has low defenses compared to some hardcore builds, and usually it is reliant on dodging most of the skills and clearing off screen. And this build is not for hardcore players. And another point is that the end game build is a money sink. It will require a lot of divines in order to transition into the end game. However, this could be a pro if you're looking for a build that you want to play the entire league and keep upgrading your gear. For another con, the last con is that this build has very low boss damage, so you shouldn't use this build for mapping content and not for Uber or bossing. About the Tornado Shot Manaforged arrows, I would recommend it for semi-beginners because in my personal opinion, you have to learn the mechanics of the bosses, to learn the basic fundamentals of the kiting mechanic, and know the different difficulty of the content you're engaging in. This way you will be able to have a better time. And why would you choose Tornado Shot Manaforged arrows? Because in my opinion, it is currently the best bow league starter. Tornado Shot is the best bow skill. It is superior in every way. It has good single target due to the shotgunning of the secondary projectiles, and also has good clear with the massive amounts of projectile speed and projectiles that we are shooting. Now let's talk about the build guide. I have updated a spreadsheet for the patch 3.23 Path of Exile Affliction. And here I have the POB for leveling, non-crit POB and a crit POB. I suggest changing from the non-crit POB to a crit POB at around level 90. But you should know that the non-crit precise technique version works pretty well. I have also included a link to my Discord. This way, if you have any questions, you can message me and send a message on the Discord. I have updated the leveling and axe guide. I have changed the main and secondary skill in some of the leveling process. For example, over here. In addition to the POB, you should be able to find all the information you need in this spreadsheet over here. This way, you won't have to switch between the POB and notes during the leveling process. In the POB, you will find the passive tree, and here you will find a guideline for all the gems you need during the leveling and acts. Here, for example, at Act 1, the main skill you're going to have is Galvanic Arrow, Mirage Archer, and an added cold damage. And the secondary skill you're going to be using is Shrapnel, Ballista, and added cold. I've put the level of the level requirement of the gem in the parentheses next to the name. This way you know when to pick up the gem, and it will help during your leveling process. At the same time, I have also included a POB, a screenshot of the POB over here, and the main pathing of how the POB works. As you can see, we path to this node and then to this one, and 3, 4, 5 like this. And then in the path POB, you will see that this is where we get the precise technique. And later on, we will refund those points in order to save those points and put it somewhere else. But it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 over here. This cluster is not really needed if you don't want the increased mobility from the blink arrow. You can combo the blink arrow and the flame dash in order to travel faster. In Act 1, your main skill and secondary skill is Galvanic Arrow and Shrapnel Ballista. And you can also pick up Sniper's Mark and try to self-cast it if needed. And you will pick up a travel skill that you prefer. I prefer Blink Arrow because it can cross terrain, and you can combo the Blink Arrow with Frost Blink or Flame Dash in order to travel even faster. The main difference, the main change is in Act 2. So in Act 2, when you reach level 12, you will unlock Rain of Arrows. This is where we use two Rain of Arrows setup. The first one is the Rain of Arrows, Mirage Archer, added cold damage, and Trinity, depending on how many sockets you have. And secondary skill is a Ballista setup with the Rain of Arrows. This is very good to clear out the mobs and get a lot of XP during the acts. And if you have extra sockets, depending on what gear you are finding and depending on the color of the sockets, you can look into a utility or more damage setup of Manaforged arrows with Lightning Arrow, Burning Arrow, or with Frenzy and Snaring Arrow. At level 18, you should pick up Aura, 2 auras, Hero of Thunder, Hero of Ice. There's also Hero of Ash. You can activate those two for extra damage. And Aura at level 24, you should drop one of them and change it to Anger and Hero of Ice. If you have extra socket on your gear, you should look to use Steel Skin on left click. This gives an additional layer of defense while leveling. You will be using these skills until Act 4. You will have the ability to automate the curse of the Sniper's Mark using Mark on Hit that requires level 38. The Rain of Arrows setup should carry you until the end of the acts, but I have included an optional swap to a Lightning Arrow if you prefer that playstyle. During Act 6, if you lack single target, you could pick up a 4-link Manaforged arrows with Manaforged arrows, lifetap, storm rain, and blast rain. Lifetap should be red over here. Let me just change that. So this way, every attack you will be able to trigger storm rain and blast rain. This is very good for single target damage, and you no longer need the ballista for the Rain of Arrows. So at Act 6, you can drop the ballistas for the Manaforged arrow setup. It should be noted that if you are swapping to Lightning Arrow, you should include Pierce in your links because Lightning Arrow need the Pierce. And you can also use Pierce and Returning Projectiles depending on what the colors of the gear you're looking at. You can have this, or this. And the requirement for using LA is to have the +2 projectiles from the tree. So over here and over here. Other than that, if you choose the Lightning Arrow swap, the second Ascendancy, you should pick up Fire Shot instead of the chain. This way you will have more damage. But if you skip the swap to LA, you should follow this Ascendancy where you pick up the chain and then finally the endless munition for the added 2 projectiles. For swapping to Tornado Shot, you should aim to swap once you have the 5 arrows, basically at the end of the 3rd lab when you pick up the endless munitions. And the links for Tornado Shot is Tornado Shot, Mirage Archer, greater multiple projectiles, Trinity, and elemental damage with attacks. And finally, if you have a 6 link, maybe add lightning damage or cold damage or something like that. Now I have added some tips and to help you guys with smooth leveling during the acts. One, you make sure that you have more accuracy than your HP. This is because we're using precise technique, and this gives us 40% more damage only if our accuracy is higher than our health. So make sure that your accuracy is always higher than your health. You can check it in your stats tab. The second point is that you should always constantly pick up rare bows and check for better DPS bows. Same with the quivers. So during the leveling process, I would always pick up good base bows that are rare and then identify them to see if there's any good added flat elemental damage or attack speed, things like that. The DPS of the bow will greatly help with your overall DPS since most of the bow skills scale with the elemental damage. Other than that, you should prioritize flat elemental damage since this is what will have the most effect on your damage early on. You should always take advantage of damage auras such as Herald of Thunder or Anger, things like that, because your mana pool should be always reserved. Just have enough mana to cast your skills. Other than that, if you lack resist, you can always go to the crafting bench and craft resist on your gear. And same with the flat elemental damage. For example, if you have a bow that has cold damage, fire damage, and there's still an open prefix, you can go to the crafting bench and craft the last elemental damage. For the bandit, you kill everyone for the 2 passives. For the pantheons, you use Soul of the Brine King for the freeze immunity, and Minor God is very flexible depending what you're doing. Usually I use the one that grants immunity to burning ground if I'm farming Exarch altars during mapping. So some other tips that will help you during the leveling campaign is that you don't be afraid to use some of the chromatics that you pick up, jewelers and fusings, to get the 3-link or 4-link that has really good stats. This will help a lot with your damage. And in the early acts, you should prioritize links over the stats of the gear unless the stats are insane, because extra link on your skills will increase the damage. Clear the blue blacks if you need XP. This is always a good thing to do because they grant more XP. Similarly, I would suggest if you're a new player and if you're not really looking to speedrun and just playing the game casually, over leveling a couple of levels over the level of the area will actually help a lot during the acts, since you will have more passes, more HP, and you will die much less. Regarding the effect of the Ascendancy and which to pick in 3.23 Affliction, I would first, in the early game, go for the Oath of the Magi. This will, and put no socketed gems in my boots. This will give me 30% more movement speed. This will help us run faster and clear the map faster. Other than that, after that, I would take the Coated Blade to have tinctures. After Coated Blade, I would take Nature's Concoction. This gives additional increased effect on your flask and will help you with the uptime of your flask during mapping. And for the final point is I would choose whether either Detect Evil or the Bark Skin skill. It seems that the Bark Skin skill has a really good buff for 25% of your mana. I think it has good synergy with evasion builds, because when we are getting hit, we get more chance to evade. And if we're not getting hit, we have increased armor to tank the hits that we're going to take. The Detect Evil is also very interesting. I would go for Bark Skin if I have the mana reservation efficiency. If not, I would go for Detect Evil. Since we're using Sniper's Mark, it says that your hits against mark enemies cannot be blocked or suppressed. This is good and useful for difficult monsters in the Expedition, for example, that has mods that says they will block attacks. In the end game, I believe this Ascendancy will be the most powerful, since you will be able to swap charms and choose whatever charm you need for different situations. And I think that you will be able to get additional arrows over here, because GGG said these charms are nerfed ascendancy points, and since there's an ascendancy in Deadeye that grants 2 additional projectiles, assuming a nerfed version of that ascendancy it would be additional 1 projectile at least. And it seems that after the nerf to the synthesis implicit of the bows and quivers, which no longer grant additional arrow, GGG is moving those additional arrows to the leak mechanic, such as tattoos, for example. So I'm really looking forward to the charms and their power. And finally, I have some trade links at the end to help you guys gear up. Boots with movement speed, resistances, rings with resistances and attributes that have the open prefix for the craft for minus mana cost of skills, and armor, 6-link armor with correct colors. For example, a high EDPS bow that has good tiers of elemental damage. All the good uniques the build is using, it will be the Tanu Ahi and High Reach Truth and the Fledgling. If you're using the Fledgling, you can skip the Far Shot Ascendancy, but if you don't have the Fledgling or using some other helmet, you should have the Far Shot Ascendancy instead of the Mark Ascendancy for the last one. If you want to use the Taming, it is absolutely fine. You just have to use lifetap support on your Manaforged arrow setup to constantly proc them. And I would use this probably on a 5-link or a 6-link. So you can do a Manaforged arrows support with lifetap support, and for the rest, you can do some damaging abilities such as Lightning Arrow, Burning Arrow, Blast Ring, or something like that. I have also seen some interesting tech regarding the mid and end game for this build, is using volatility support and focusing on lightning damage. I will talk about it in another video. Overall, this is still one of the best League starter bow builds out there. And if you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord. I, however, will not be really starting with this build anymore because I'm planning to go for an EA Ballista Elementalist instead. I will make a guide on that as well. But the main reason is because I have been starting bow builds for the past 2-3 leagues already. I think overall for this league, the league start build really has a low impact since there will be for sure overpowered builds that will be discovered very soon, and a lot of people will be switching to them. In addition to that, I want to league start a bossing build. This way, if you guys have any trouble with the bosses, I will be able to do some carry services for you guys to help you guys progress. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and see you guys on the next video. It will be a guide on EA Ballista Elementalist.